So basically, this week, what I gathered from the lectures and readings was the fact that publishing no longer uses the traditional ways of publishing, i.e. printing, which was the standard mainstream way. It no longer uses that, and it is basically using new forms of platforms, i.e. the internet, digital media, things like that, to get its publishing done for many people. So what exactly is publishing? Publishing is to make known or make public. For those of us that have Twitter, Facebook, that's many of us these days, probably 99% of us, we are basically creating publics. We are basically publishing things and, simply just writing a status on Facebook. That can be considered as publishing something, because through that, we are basically engaging with other people and they're able to see what we write, what we feel, what we express, etc. And they become our audience, they become our publics. So, printing was one of the traditional and historical ways that publishing was enabled. Basically, printing was a revolutionary discovery and creation which challenged the social norms and the way of life. Printing enabled us to basically retrieve and receive information like never before, and it shifted us into a radical culture of script to printing. Elizabeth Einstein named a man named Francis Bacon, who, quote, "For these changed the appearance and state of the world." And he mentioned a few creations which did, and printing was one of them. Obviously, printing had a huge impact back in the days, and it still does now. However, it is pretty obvious that we are transitioning into a new movement, into a new kind of platform, like I mentioned earlier, the internet. Will Durant, who was also in the reading of Elizabeth Einstein, called this transition, well, actually this transition was from the script to the print, so this is the printing transition. He called this a typographical revolution, where printing became a mainstream part of where people were able to receive and write their information, and it was actually authentic. However, now this revolution is long gone. And a fine example of this is where we're able to explore the e-reader. So, what is the e-reader? The e-reader is a little electronic device that's about this small. You can carry it around with you. Basically, you can download and buy books online and you can read it. And actually, a lot of people have been buying it these days. Not to mention, it's not just the e-reader, the internet and things like that. It makes publishing so much more easier now. John Lehrer, one of the readings that were given for this week, recognized that digital media was actually taking over printing really quickly, and he mentioned e-reader as one of the examples. Now, this guy loves his books, and he's just talking about how the e-reader makes everything so much more convenient for people that they just don't contemplate on the meaning of the actual words of the book anymore. So basically, he was just pretty much saying, hey, look, I'm upset because e-readers are basically taking over the actual traditional ways of reading things, therefore making our world so much more convenient. And quote, "My larger anxiety has to do with the sprawling influence of technology. Sooner or later, every medium starts to influence the message." So I guess it's pretty clear that he's pretty concerned that it's no longer the book, but it's the medium that's going to actually start affecting us. It's no longer what we read, but how we read that affects us. Moreover, John Norton also said the concept of a book will change under the pressure of an iPad type of devices, just as concepts of what constitutes a magazine or a newspaper are already changing. So I guess these two are pretty much concerned, and they pretty much realize that digital media is actually taking over and it's becoming the new platform of publishing. It doesn't just have to be e-readers, it can be just online, like I mentioned earlier, Facebook and things like that. Even Sydney Morning Herald, who's established a solid website online now, for example, me, I never pick up the newspaper and read it. I always just go on to SMH and read my newspaper article there, and it is pretty much actually really true what John Norton and John Lehrer said, because I actually contemplate on the news more when I actually read it on a piece of paper. I don't know why. Maybe this is just more real for me, or maybe it's just because I feel it's more authentic. I really don't know how my brain is thinking, but I do believe John Lehrer mentioned some scientific, like he's researched and mentioned some scientific, the way that we think and things like that, and how it was proven that we actually take newspapers and print and things like that more seriously, whereas for internet and things like that, we actually just are really quick to grasp the meanings and not even think about it once. So yeah, I guess right now the huge tension is between printing and digital media, and e-reader is a huge part of that, because books have now transitioned into a electronic device, which was never it was never possible back in the days. And yeah, so this is what I basically learned from week 2, that publishing is taking a new form. It's transitioning, and we in the 21st century are quick to grasp onto this, but is it the question, I guess, really is this worth it? Are the consequences worth it, basically? And if so, are these consequences gonna bring us down practically? As we no longer, we don't think twice about these things like books, e-readers, things like that. Even reading the news, social networking online, things like that. Do we think twice before we upload what we upload? Photos, statuses, quotes, whatever. Like, it can be whatever. Even on blogging and things like that, it's so much more easier for us to just get out there and say whatever we want, rather than actually writing it, printing it, and letting it go. And I think that because printing itself is actually twice as more hard than just simply online media, I believe that that's why printing is more of a traditional and finer example of publishing, rather than the new forms of digital media.